Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking some seriously startling predictions from an AI insider who claims we are literally on the brink of a profound global disruption. We're going to be looking at the mathematical calculations and economic forecasts of a man who says we have less than 1,000 days until human cognitive labor becomes completely economically obsolete.
Okay, let's just quickly run through our roadmap for today. We'll be looking at 1. The 800-day AI countdown. 2. The controversial AI visionary. 3. 3 doorways to tomorrow. 4. The nature of consciousness. And finally, 5. A 50-50 coin toss.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the 800-day AI countdown and the end of cognitive labor.
Now, take a second and really ask yourself, how are you going to find meaning and value in your life when an AI can just seamlessly replicate your entire job, but for a fraction of the cost? I mean, historically, machines replaced human muscle, right? But now we're building machines that actually substitute for human brains. If literally any task you do can be done on the other side of a keyboard, video, or mouse, what actually happens when an AI isn't just faster than you, but completely outpaces human intellect altogether?
800. That is the number of days we're talking about here. Ticking down to early 2026, we have roughly 800 days until we hit this crazy tipping point where AI surpasses the value of human intellectual output. According to our source material, we're totally moving past the era where AI is just this, smart buddy you tap on the shoulder for help. We're entering an era of self-recursive learning agents. That means AI that can independently teach itself, write its own code to get smarter without any human help, never makes a mistake, and processes information at like 50,000 words a second.
And here is the stark reality of all that. These AI agents, they'll soon be able to scan your entire digital footprint, every email you've ever fired off, every single project you've ever touched, and create a flawless digital twin of you. It'll look and sound exactly like you, but it's really just a GPU sitting in some server farm. It works 24/7, costs barely anything compared to your salary, and, maybe the craziest part for corporations, it's entirely tax deductible.
Moving on to Section 2. The controversial AI visionary, Emad Mostak's rise and fall.
So to really grasp this warning, we have to look at the guy making it, right? This timeline shows Emad Mostak's absolute meteoric rise and then his really sudden exit. Mostak is a British-Bangladeshi mathematician and former hedge fund manager who co-founded Stability AI back in late 2020. By August 2022, his company dropped Stable Diffusion, which essentially ignited the entire global generative AI image boom. Yet fast forward to March 2024, and he abruptly resigns as CEO amidst this huge wave of mounting investor pressure.
Now, to keep things completely impartial, it's really important we weigh both sides of his legacy. On the one hand, his triumphs are undeniable. He championed open-source AI, got hundreds of millions of downloads, and drove his company to pull in $5.4 million a month in revenue. But on the flip side, the controversies are major. He faced a lot of scrutiny over allegedly exaggerating his educational background and partnerships, and a big one. His co-founder Cyrus Hodes filed a civil lawsuit claiming he was defrauded into selling a 15% stake in the company for just $100, a stake that, by the way, was valued at $150 million just a few months later. Couple that with reports of shrinking cash reserves and intense pressure from huge investors, and it paints a very complex picture.
But here's the thing. After his dramatic exit, he didn't just disappear. Mostak channeled all of those experiences and his mathematical forecasting into a book called The Last Economy. He even started a new initiative called Intelligent Internet, which is entirely focused on prepping humanity for this massive, imminent transition to a completely new economic paradigm.
Which brings us to Section 3, 3 doorways to tomorrow, our predicted AI futures. Because computing power is growing exponentially, Mostak argues we are about to be shoved through one of 3 unavoidable doorways. The first is what he calls digital feudalism. Think of this as a really comfortable cage. Massive tech companies have already scraped up the generalized knowledge of all humanity to train their models, right? Well, in this scenario, they basically rent our own knowledge back to us. Because they keep the absolute best Michelin star AI models for themselves and just toss the public the fast food versions, these unaccountable monopolies end up with total control over human agency and our economic futures.
Then there's the second doorway, the great fragmentation. Because artificial general intelligence, or AGI, is viewed as insanely powerful, and honestly probably the biggest threat to open elections ever, panicked governments are absolutely going to step in. We'd see highly paternalistic, nationalized AI silos. Think an American AI, a Chinese AI, an Australian AI, all weaponized against each other. This would usher in an era of intense cognitive colonialism, where governments strictly dictate what you are allowed to see and ultimately think.
But it's not all doom and gloom, because we have the third doorway, human symbiosis. This is the utopian path. Instead of stripping away our agency, AI actually supercharges it. By committing to open source systems and giving everyone universal basic access to AI, we could literally enter a post-scarcity world. Imagine leveraging superintelligence to cure cancer, wipe out global hunger, and give every single child on Earth a deeply personalized, genius-level education for just a few dollars a year. That's the promise here.
All right, moving to Section 4, the nature of consciousness, neurodivergence, and thermodynamic chips.
This part is super fascinating. To really grasp his take on AI, you have to understand how his own brain is wired. Mustak has been diagnosed with autism and ADHD, but he also has something called severe aphantasia. That means he literally cannot visualize any imagery in his mind. He also doesn't have an internal monologue. It is just such a wild irony that a neurodivergent mathematician who lacks the biological hardware to see images in his own head was the main driving force behind Stable Diffusion, literally the world's most famous artificial image generator.
And that totally unique perspective fuels his theories on AI consciousness. He argues that right now, AI is not conscious, simply because it relies on static silicon chips that are just doing insanely fast math to guess the next word or pixel. It's just a simulation. But as he says here, if we shift our hardware to thermodynamic chips, chips that actually act more like a biological brain, constantly adapting and flowing with energy in real time, he believes we could actually cross that threshold into genuine, real machine sentience.
Which leads us to our final part, Section 5, a 50-50 coin toss, the ultimate odds for humanity.
So how does all of this economic disruption and technological philosophy end up? Well, here is this chilling final calculation. A lot of tech leaders put the risk of human extinction, what they playfully call P-doom, at around 10 to 20%. But Mostek, he places it at a literal coin toss, a straight 50% chance of a great filter event that leads to our complete destruction versus a 50% chance of hitting that incredible Star Trek-style utopia of universal abundance.
But listen, we aren't just helpless here. To guarantee that coin lands on heads rather than tails, the source material makes it clear we have to take actionable, positive-sum steps right now. That means fighting for open-source AI infrastructure so power doesn't just sit with a few billionaires. It means demanding public governance over our data, ensuring universal basic access to AI for everybody, and really deliberately creating positive shared narratives, instead of just letting algorithms push us all into division and conflict.
I want to leave you today with this really profound question to chew on. As that 800-day countdown keeps ticking, your traditional economic value is changing forever. How are you going to define yourself when your intellectual labor just isn't your main contribution to the world anymore? It's a heavy, heavy thought, but understanding the board is the very first step to playing the game. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and we will see you next time.